निवासिनि विष्णुविलासिनि जिष्णुनुते.
Something happened with Oxfam in Haiti or Haiti, I don't know how to pronounce it, in 2018. So first let me read you that article. So Oxfam sexual exploitation scandal in Haiti. This is what happened. On 9th February, Oxfam got accused of covering up an investigation. Investigation हो रहा है उसको भी cover up कर दिया. So this article is not even about exactly what happened. This is about covering up what happened. So covering up investigation into the hiring of sex workers for orgies by staff who were working in Haiti after the 2010 earthquake, which killed thousands. After the investigation, the charity allowed 3 men, including the country director, the director for Oxfam Haiti, Roland van Houwer-Myren, to resign and sacked 4 others for gross misconduct, according to an internal 2011 report. 2 days later, Penny Mordaunt, I think, the International Development Secretary, threatens to cut government funding to Oxfam unless the charity hands over all information on its workers' use of sex workers in Haiti. Meanwhile, Oxfam is hit with allegations that employees used sex workers in Chad as well in 2006 when Van Houwer-Myren was running operations there. Then, next day, the Charity Commission launches a statutory inquiry into Oxfam amid concerns it might not have quote-unquote fully and frankly disclosed all details about the Haiti allegations. The charity's deputy chief executive, Penny Lawrence, resigns, saying she is quote-unquote desperately sorry as Haiti demands the prosecutions of aid workers identified as using sex workers. Okay, we'll get to who the sex workers are, okay? There's hilarious things to unfold here. Very next day, actor Minnie Driver, who was one of the 16 celebrity patrons for Oxfam, says she is withdrawing her supports in no uncertain terms after working with the charity for more than 20 years, a charity that destroys capitalism. At the same time, claims emerged that Van Houwer-Myren had been forced out of another British charity 7 years earlier. Interesting. After an investigation into the use of sex workers. So he's a goddamn multiple-time offender. Hired 7 years later by Oxfam. 2 days later, Archbishop Desmond Tutu resigns as an ambassador for Oxfam, saying he is quote-unquote deeply disappointed by the allegations of immorality and possible criminality. Very next day, Mark Goldring, the chief executive of Oxfam GB, claims attacks are quote-unquote out of proportion to the level of culpability. थोड़ा ज़्यादा accusation हो गया भोसड़ी के. So this is what they usually do with capitalism and Adani, Ambani, etc. in India. But now they are sad that it's happening to them. And if at all that is really the case. And accuses critics of an anti-aid agenda. Anti-aid agenda, yes, as if those countries are big high on capitalism and they don't really want aids, okay? I mean aid in plural. In contrast, the head of Oxfam International, Winnie Byanyima, warns that what happened in Haiti is, quote, a stain on Oxfam that will shame us for years. You should be more ashamed for hating capitalism. But anyway, 3 days later, Oxfam fulfills a promise to publish its 2011 inquiry into the Haiti sex abuse, which reveals that 3 staff who were under investigation physically threatened a colleague to ensure that person's silence. Okay? Hush money bhi nahi diya. Hush threaten kar diya. The charity offers its humblest apologies to the Haitian government. 20th February, Goldring tells members of parliament on the International Development Select Committee that the charity has lost 7,000 regular donors since the scandal emerged. So capitalists stopped funding their anti-capitalism agenda. Interesting. 2 days later, Haiti announces it is temporarily suspending Oxfam GB's right to work in the country pending an investigation into how the charity handled the sexual exploitation case. The suspension is intended to last for 2 months. 17th March, Oxfam is accused of further failures in Haiti by keeping a senior aid worker there for more than a year, despite reported sexual harassment claims. According to an internal report seen by The Times, the charity attempted to contain allegations against Rafael Mutiku, an engineer who led Oxfam's installation of water supplies after the earthquake. Oxfam confirms the decision to not dismiss Mutiku was made by our old friend Van Houwer-Myren. 16th May, Goldring announces he is to stand down as chief executive at the end of the year, citing the scandal and the need for fresh vision and energy at the charity. We are now laying strong foundations for recovery, he says. 14th June, Haiti announces it is withdrawing Oxfam GB's right to operate in the country for, quote, violation of Haitian law and serious violation of the principle of the dignity of human beings. Okay, this is the end of this story. Now let's get into what happened recently. Okay, this report that I'm going to read now is from 2019. Okay, this happened in 2018. Now let me remind you all what happened in 2019. Okay, Oxfam failed to act on reports its workers that its workers were raping girls as young as 12. Damning report concludes. Okay, तो पहले जो सेक्स वर्कर्स बोल रहे थे, a lot of them were 12-year-old girls as well, okay? Now check this out. After this we'll come to what happened just 2 days back in Oxfam, Delhi, okay? So senior staff failed to alert law enforcement to allegations that aid workers were having sex with minors, a damning charity commission report concludes. So they were having an orgy while claiming to save the victims of the earthquake, okay? Oxfam failed to act on reports that children were being sexually abused by its workers in Haiti in 2011. उसके 8 साल बाद ये रिपोर्ट हो रहा है. According to major charity commission inquiry, which concluded the allegations were not taken seriously enough. A report by Charity Commission into Oxfam GB, undertaken in response to revelations last year of sexual exploitation by aid workers, concludes the safety of potential victims took second place. That was not their priority. It discloses a series of emails received by the NGO in 2011 alleging some workers were having sex with women and girls, including minors, in refugee camps after their homes were destroyed by the earthquake which devastated the country in 2010. This is new colonization, guys. Oxfam suspected the emails were not genuine and did not raise them with local police. In one case, 2 emails dated 18th July 2011 and 20th August 2011, both said to be from a 13-year-old Haitian girl, alleged she and a 12-year-old friend had suffered physical abuse and other misconduct at the hands of Oxfam staff. The email stated the girls had been engaging in prostitution and the author had been quote-unquote beaten and used by 2 men who I know worked for you. It continued, quote, they also have a boss who works for you and I have not met, but my young friend, she is 12, she had sex with him. The inquiry established that the emails were not raised with any law enforcement at the time and former trustees said they were not made aware of them. Taking into consideration the quote-unquote seriousness of the allegations made in the emails as well as the quote clear risks to the safety and security of those minors, end quote, if they were true, the commission said Oxfam should have tried harder and taken more steps at the time to identify the source of the concerns and follow up the allegations. Oxfam GB should not have taken the risk with the safety of minors. It should have reported the possibility of 2 girls being at risk to the local law enforcement authorities. The risk to and impact on the victims appeared to take second place and was not taken seriously enough, it said. The Charity Commission said that given the period of time that had passed, it would not be possible to conclude with sufficient certainty whether minors were involved or at risk. Okay, now let me tell you what happened 2 days back in Oxfam Delhi's office. So, Oxfam worker told that someone told to her that she does not know oppression because she is straight. 4 whistleblowers have spoken out to highlight the charity's persecution of gender-critical women. Okay, this is from 2 days back. It's being written by Julie Bindel. She's a legendary first wave, second wave kind of feminist who were the original people who faced actual anti-women laws, stood up to them, and encouraged more rights for women in the West. So, and these people are against the transgenderism agenda. So, she's writing, a former Oxfam worker claims she was told she could not know what oppression is because she was straight. She was heterosexual, that's why. The employee is one of the 3 more staff members to have come forward to spotlight the persecution that gender-critical women were subjected to by the charity, making a total of 4 women whose concerns have been reported by the Telegraph. So, the charity, the anti-capitalist agenda discourse creators who were having orgies with 12-year-old and 13-year-old girls in 2010 and 11 in Haiti, they are now telling to straight women that you don't exactly know what oppression is because you are not gay, because you're not lesbian. Okay, the 3 whistleblowers were emboldened to speak out after Oxfam was accused of attacking J.K. Rowling over her views on transgender issues in a controversial Pride cartoon. So for those of you who don't know, J.K. Rowling, the writer of Harry Potter, is a staunch feminist, but she's also staunchly against transgenderism, for which she is called a TERF, trans exclusionary radical feminist. Okay, so Sally, who was a paid employer at Oxfam headquarters in Oxford, told the Telegraph she was berated by a colleague who described himself as on the transgender spectrum. So that person is not even actually a transgender, that person is on the transgender spectrum. उसको थोड़ा लग रहा है कि मैं शायद transgender हूँ. During a conversation about women in prison encountering male sex offenders identifying as trans women. Okay, लड़के लोग लड़की बोल के फीमेल प्रिजन में रह रहे हैं और वहाँ पे फीमेल प्रिजनर्स को सेक्सुअली हरास कर रहे हैं, वायलेट कर रहे हैं और कहीं पे सुना जा रहा है कि रेप भी कर रहे हैं. Quote, he was immediately scathing and dismissive of my concerns, saying that there was a moral panic about trans women imprisoned with other women and that it was all a load of bullshit, end quote, said Sally. A single parent and a feminist concerned about male violence towards women and girls. Okay, she's feminist and single parent, so that no surprise there, but at least she's standing up to this problem in society. So that person, that transgender spectrum wala person, he raised his voice telling me that transphobic prisoners were making up such stories and were very likely to be TERFs, trans-exclusionary radical feminists. Okay, yeah, so women prisoners are trans-exclusionary radical feminists. What world do these guys live in? And this kind of talk harms trans people and can lead to their suicide, okay? So if you have ever dated someone with a suicidal tendency, you know that anyone threatening you with suicide and you responding to them affirmatively is never a good solution. Okay, now talk of trans women's shoes. Quote, this same colleague said to me in a disagreement about some aspect of women's oppression or rights that, quote, cis women don't get to tell trans women about oppression. Until you have walked in a trans woman's shoes, you don't even know what oppression is. Okay. Yeah. Sally said she considered making a formal complaint because she, quote, felt bullied and very uncomfortable, end quote, going into work on a daily basis and had begun to look for other jobs. Yeah, you should not have worked in Oxfam to begin with. But when she, quote unquote, tested the water with a senior colleague in an informal conversation, she said they were, quote, so hostile, coming close to calling me a bigot, end quote, and told her to, quote, think very carefully about your privilege क्योंकि तुम heterosexual लड़की हो, end quote, before you paint yourself as the victim. Okay, it's a competition of victimhood obviously. So एक बड़ा victim छोटे victim को बोल रहा है नहीं नहीं ज़्यादा victim मत खेलो. You are still not qualified to call yourself a victim. Sally began looking for other jobs and recently left the organization. She said she was too intimidated to pursue a case against Oxfam because she worried that being accused of transphobia would ruin her reputation in the workplace. Now, Geeta, a young lesbian who works at Oxfam's Delhi office, who wanted to remain anonymous, said she overheard a conversation between colleagues about rumors which later proved to be unfounded of a large donation from one of J.K. Rowling's charities. Her colleagues responded to the news saying that, quote, no way would we take money from that transphobe, okay? J.K. Rowling पैसा भेज रहा है, वो पैसा नहीं लेगा, ठीक है? Oxfam, most of their time is spent on writing papers and publishing papers about destroying capitalism in developing countries, okay? उसके बाद थोड़ा बहुत जो women's rights के लिए काम भी करते हैं, उसके लिए जो पैसा चाहिए, वो पैसा अगर trans exclusionary feminists दे, तो वो पैसा इनको नहीं चाहिए, ठीक है? So that shocked our friend Geeta here. So Geeta said, I was horrified that they were willing to turn down money that would go to alleviate hardship for impoverished people because of this terrible ideology. No one challenged them about what they said about J.K. Rowling. Geeta also recalled one of her male colleagues lecturing her on being whorephobic. Okay? New term, guys. Be prepared for it. One of you will get called this in the recent future, in the upcoming future, near future. Whorephobic. And why she is whorephobic? Guess what? She was called whorephobic because she made disapproving remarks about the Oxfam sexual exploitation scandal in Haiti. Okay. इसके साथ whore का क्या संबंध है? The issue is that Geeta said that Oxfam was wrong, the employees of Oxfam were wrong to indulge in those sexual orgies, etc. But this person who is calling her whorephobic, his or her explanation is that they were merely young prostitutes. Even if they are child prostitutes, maybe they have not clarified that, but their claim is that they were just prostitutes who were exchanging sexual favors after an earthquake. So you criticizing that sexual scandal makes you whorephobic because you are against the exploitation of that prostitution scenario. Okay, you are not supposed to be against that, as if it's a proven claim that it was that it was prostitution. It's not even proven. The claims are that it might not have been prostitution and that a lot of them were minors. अगर prostitution legal भी है, अगर वो consensual भी है, 12-13 साल की लड़की का consent कहाँ से आता है? And Geeta criticizing Oxfam employees having sex with 12-year-old, 13-year-old girls is being called whorephobic. That comment is called whorephobic now, okay? So Geeta left the organization before she could get another job, before she feared she would fall out with senior management and get fired, which would then make it impossible for her to seek employment elsewhere. She worked in a restaurant before managing to get a job in an international NGO. एक चूतिया एंटी कैपिटलिस्ट एनजीओ छोड़ के और एक एनजीओ में गई है तो फेमिनिस्ट, तो इसको एनजीओ में ही जिंदगी बिताना है कैपिटलिस्ट के भीख से. तो अब हम जानेंगे कि स्वर्फ क्या है और टर्फ क्या है. Anna, who works in London and did not volunteer her real name, said she was concerned that the reputation of Oxfam India, which, quote, has an incredible history with decades of programs and campaigns on women's rights, which means delaying our progress and delaying the prosperity of women, is being, quote, harmed by now promoting an unscientific and deeply harmful ideology. अच्छा, अब unscientific है, अब harmful है. Slowing down the growth of India's economic prosperity was not harmful. That was not unscientific. Recalling her experiences working for the charity, she said, quote, we were called swerves, a feminist woman who opposes sex work, and turfs, hostile transgender views. Women who had been working for decades on women's rights, including those in very senior roles, told me they were too scared to say what they really thought, that sex work was not work and deeply harmful to women, she added. The widening scandal engulfing Oxfam over the mistreatment of gender-critical women working for the charity has been described as an act of reputational self-immolation, khud ko aag lagana, akin to it's similar to an infamous 1991 speech from Gerald Ratner, whose description of his jewelry products as crap led stocks to plummet by 500 million pounds. Maya Forstater, the co-founder of the Sex Matters campaign, told Mail Online that, I think this could be Oxfam's Ratner moment if they don't start standing up for women's rights. An Oxfam spokesman said, quote, Oxfam aims to be an inclusive organization which is welcoming of all different beliefs, people of all different beliefs and respectful of different identities. We are committed to tackling discrimination of all kinds, including against the LGBTQIA plus community, because it is a barrier that stops people escaping poverty and living their lives to the full. Poverty escape करने के लिए capitalism चाहिए होता है, ठीक है? Not NGO. Quote, we would encourage anyone who feels that they have been treated unfairly at Oxfam to make a complaint so that we can investigate and take action if appropriate. Okay. Now, the final thing I want to show you from in context to this topic. Check out what this person, Julie Bindel, this feminist herself, said where she was giving an interview along with Douglas Murray.
It's populated in the main by men who are off the hook for misogyny, not at all, but it's populated in the main by men who claim to be leftists, Owen Jones, for example, who say that they're progressive. But I think, in my mind, my opinion, really hate women that are too big for our boots.
Yeah.
So long as they're shouting the loudest and we're in tow, they don't mind. But my God, do they hate us feminists, and they give us a good kicking via the trans ideology and the slur of transphobia. And I mean, you know, we've all heard, unless you've been asleep for 4 days, the latest Oxfam scandal. Another charity completely captured by Stonewall, completely captured by trans ideology.
Okay, Stonewall used to be a famous agency, a group that used to advocate for gay rights. Okay, it basically has fossilized. It has basically become irrelevant to a large extent, but now, more importantly, they are now overtaken, hijacked by the transgenderism ideology. Okay, now they are no longer just gay rights ideology. Now they are on the transgenderism side of things, which has nothing to do with gay rights, because transgenderism says that there are no such things as gender. You can identify as anything you want any moment, okay, and you can identify anything 5 minutes later as well, okay, because you can be gender fluid as well. But homosexual rights are about me saying that yes, I'm definitely a guy and I definitely like a person who is also definitely a guy. If I say that I don't know if I'm a guy or not, and I don't know if the person I'm in love with is a guy or not, how can I even be called homosexual? Okay, so that's Stonewall, who's hijacked by transgenderism. She's talking about that.
Another charity completely captured by Stonewall, completely captured by trans ideology, dominated by privileged kids without a brain in their heads that have left university, where they haven't been taught to think critically. They've been taught that thinking critically is dangerous and that they'll be punished if they do. So they then go into senior positions at charities like Oxfam. We've seen the bedrock of misogyny there. We saw that with the Haiti scandal, where there were wealthy, highly paid consultants working for Oxfam, raping children. I will not call them sex workers. I will not say that these men were clients. They were raping children and leaving them a few quid for doing.
Yes, and why she's calling it rape and not sex workers? Because you can't fucking consent at 12 or 13 years old, which is why we have child marriage laws. If you consent under 18, it's not even considered consent. That's not even brand new information. How can a sex worker be under 12 or 13? That's literally, even if not sex worker, that's literally child labor at the very least, because she's working and she's under 12, under 13.
Doing so. And Oxfam, I heard today from another whistleblower that there was a huge argument going on amongst the LGBTQI2 Spirit Plus lot in Delhi.
Okay, you guys, do you know what's this two-spirit thing now? A lot of white liberals are now saying that they are allies with the Native Americans so much, and they think that the Native Americans are their allies in the transgenderism side of things, because there is something called one person having two spirits in Native American faith traditions. Okay, now the white liberals are appropriating Native Americans and their faith systems to help their transgenderism ideology. So now it's called LGBTQI2 Spirit Plus. Okay. Now she will say what happened in the LGBTQI in the Oxfam Delhi office.
Going on amongst the LGBTQI2 Spirit Plus lot in Delhi, in India, in their office, about how these men in Haiti hadn't done anything wrong. They had simply contributed to the local economy, like going to eat at one of the local restaurants. It's staggering. No. And this colleague, who is a lesbian, who's been called a cis bigot, who fights for the rights of women, and that means against sexual exploitation as well. She's critical of the sex industry. She was called, now wait for it, whorephobic. Whorephobic, for saying that men shouldn't have the right to have sex, to rape vulnerable children. And she was then further told that to speak out against the sex trade was transphobic in essence, because many, and I quote, many trans women of colour are sex workers. So,
okay, so because a lot of transsexuals in India and some other poverty-stricken countries, since they are sex workers, a lot of them who I've heard are not even transsexual to begin with. They are made transsexual by cutting off their penis, etc., so that they can be used as sex workers. And I think the Pattharbaz community has something to do with that as well. I've heard rumors. Okay, because of that, क्या connection बना है समझो. गरीब देशों में transsexuals prostitutes होते हैं, इसलिए a lesbian woman who identifies as a woman, biological woman who identifies as a woman but is a lesbian, she cannot talk about these things because she is being transphobic or whorephobic, because she is talking about 12 to 13-year-old girls who are not transsexuals, them being sexually exploited. ये कनेक्शन क्या है? ये सेंटेंस मैं आर्टिकुलेट करने में ही 10 मिनट लगा रहा हूँ. ओके, हाइती में 12-13 साल की लड़कियों के साथ सेक्स किया, सेक्स करने के बाद थोड़ा पैसा भीख में दे दिया, उसको अगर हम प्रोस्टिट्यूशन बोले भी, उसको कनेक्ट किया जा रहा है दूसरे देशों के गरीब ट्रांससेक्सुअल प्रोस्टिट्यूट्स के साथ. गरीब देशों में ट्रांससेक्सुअल प्रोस्टिट्यूट होते हैं, इसलिए हाइटी में 12-13 साल की स्ट्रेट लड़की के साथ नॉट ट्रांससेक्सुअल लड़की के साथ सेक्स करना जस्टिफाइड है. ये है कनेक्शन ऑक्सफैम भोसवी के. कैन यू बिलीव दैट? दिस इज आइंस्टाइन लेवल थिंकिंग.
Where do we go with this?
Well,
I mean, they literally think that they rule the roost.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the end of this topic.
जय